Welcome to Asia Forum Series, Chapter 7 Malaysia, organized by Asian Literary Society and Journal of Asian Art, Culture and Literature. Dear friends, as you all know, Asian Literary Society is committed to promote Asian art, culture and literature, and Asia Forum Series is our sincere effort in this regard. Without further delay, I would like to introduce today's moderator, our very own Dr. Bishakha Sarma. Dr. Bishakha Sarma is a linguist who specializes in the documentation of endangered and lesser known languages. She is a passionate writer. Her writings, both in prose and poetry, have been published in journals and anthologies. She is an administrator of Asian Literary Society. She has learned Indian classical music, instrumental Mohan Veena from Ravi Shankar Institute of Music and Performing Arts, New Delhi. Now, without any further delay, I will now request Bishakha Sarma to kindly introduce our eminent guest from Malaysia.
Thank you, Manoj. Good evening, viewers. Selamat datang, Malaysia. Apa khabar? Welcome to the Asia Forum Malaysia once again. We have on our panel the eminent writers and poets of Malaysia. Introducing you all to our distinguished guests. Professor Datin Dr. Ruzy Suliza Hashim is a professor of literature at the National University of Malaysia. She is also currently the director of National University of Malaysia Press. She has been teaching literature for the last 30 years. Her areas of research include gender and literature, comparative literature, and 9/11 narratives. Her book, Out of the Shadows, Women in Malaysia, Quote, Narratives, won the National Book Award in 2005. Her other books include Voices of Many Worlds, Malaysian Literature in English, Space and Place in New Literatures in English, and Gender, Multiculturalism, Revisioning, Creating and Fostering Literary Communities, and many others. Welcome on the forum, Professor Ruzy.
Thank you.
Our next panelist, Anuradha Chelliah, hails from the quaint town of Benting. She has been a teacher for the past 15 years and currently teaches English at Benting. Given her strong passion for literature, she is actively involved in student upliftment activities, organizing educational events, coaching, and mentoring students for essay writing and poetry recitation competition. As a prolific writer for the past 6 years, Anuradha spends her time creating literature in both Bahasa Malaysia and English, which includes poems, essays, and short stories. Anuradha has also contributed as an associate editor for a project on short stories. As a teacher, her personal aim is to inspire young minds to realize and continuously develop their inner potentials. Welcome on the forum, author Anuradha. Our next panelist, Jennifer Fernandez-Netto, is a published author of short stories and a writing specialist in Malaysia's leading health magazine, Health Today. She is also Masa University's communications manager and creativity speaker at the Freshman Center of the university. She is a lover of arts and science and showcases them in her specialized writing skills for both the professional and literary world, with the aspirations of promoting values and inclusiveness for a more connected world. Welcome on the forum, author Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
I'll start my discussion with Professor Ruzy. The early works of Malaysian literature were oral literature, which encompassed myths, legends, folk tales, romance, epics, poetry, proverbs, stories of origin, etc. It is known that the oral tradition thrives among the indigenous people of Malaysia. So, would you give us an idea about the folk literature of Malaysia? Also, let me know, does it have any Indian influence?
Thank you, Dr. Bishakha. Yes, well, Malaysia is multiracial, and we've got Malay literature primarily, but we also have other Malaysian literature written in English, vernacular literature written in vernacular languages. So I'm specifically talking about Malay literature because that one is clearly influenced by Indian literature. Okay, so the influence of Indian literature, because of our, you can see this in a lot of classical literary texts, where you could see that things like magic, medicine, Hindu and Islamic law, arts of sculpture, gold, silver work, silk weaving, all these are things that we have been influenced by India. And but especially the Malay language, a lot, well, not a lot, but some of it actually originated from Sanskrit. So if you were to look words like putra means son, putri means daughter, even words like balia, which is youth, it comes from the Sanskrit word balia. So if you, a lot of words like news, speak, discussion, Your Majesty, Baginda, is actually from Sanskrit word bagya. So from the words themselves, you know that the Indian heritage is here in Malaysia, and we use it daily without recognizing that it comes from our interactions many, many centuries ago.
Yeah. Would you like to say something about the folk literature?
Okay, yeah. The folk tales too. We've got lots of folk tales. For example, folk tales with animal stories in them. The mouse deer
Okay.
stories, rabbit stories, crocodile stories, and some of these have been influenced by our connection with Indian tales. Okay, so if you were a lot of researchers have found, for example, mouse deer tales where you could trace the Indian influence in them. So there are a number of tales like, tales of origins of places as well, tales of piety or gratitude that you could relate to. Of course, some of these are universal, but because of
Okay.
our close links with India, you can trace some of these tales having an Indian origin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Professor Ruzy. I go to Anuradha. Uh, Multiculturalism prevails in Malaysia because of heterogeneous composition of population. And how do your writings deal with food, clothing, and rituals, defining the cultural identity of Malaysia?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bishakha, for actually having me on this platform today. For me, I would say, since I've been born as a Malaysian, I'm a Malaysian. You see, I'm a Malaysian first before I identify myself as an Indian, especially when I go to overseas. So when you are a Malaysian, uh, you're actually influenced by all the cultures in our country. You see, so you learn about the Malay culture, you learn about the Chinese, you learn about the Indian, even you also learn about the indigenous people. So all these some are rather influence uh, me as a writer to put it in my writing. Why just a bit of things that I include in my writing about the culture, about the words that they use, how you interact with the people, how you call them. For example, if you call an uncle in Malay, you use a pachi, okay, and then you include the cuisine, the Malay cuisine, the nasi lemak, the popular dishes. You have nasi lemak, nasi goreng. All these you can include when you write your short stories. Even when you speak about the Chinese culture, the celebrations that they celebrate. For example, the Chinese New Year, the Chap Gomei. So when I write, I bring bits from here and there, so that this culture is identified, to show that my stories are Malaysianized. Okay, not only focusing on one particular community. In general, when I present whatever I'm writing, I mean, I try to show it in my story, not just tell it directly. So what I try to show is, I try to show it through the costume, through the clothing that they wear, through the food that they eat, through the celebrations that they celebrate, without really telling them that this community is the Chinese community, this community is the Indian community, this is the Malay community. So when you read the overall story, you will get a better understanding. Oh, by reading this, this particular story is actually focusing on this particular race. Okay, so it's more on showing rather than just telling it out in the stories. So I feel this gives a better understanding for my readers. So that's why I include all this in my stories. So I hope
Wonderful.
I have give you.
Yeah, would like to listen to you more. Okay. I come to Jennifer. Jennifer, you are a gifted short story writer. And so I would like to know what aspect of life in Malaysia does it touch upon in your short stories?
She's muted.
I think you're muted.
You are muted.
I'm unmuted myself now. Okay. I just didn't want to have too many noises. Okay, can you hear me? All right. So first and foremost, thank you for having me on board. And yes, what aspects of life in Malaysia do I touch in my stories? Well, basically, life as a woman is usually the central theme of what I write. Our hurdles, our glories. It doesn't mean a woman as, I mean, it doesn't mean that I write about women who are just within my race, but women in general, you know. I mean, we have a lot of stories, we have a lot of feelings that we don't really get to say out. So what I try to do is to incorporate this feelings that we go through, and try to find for connections to make meaning to the existence of a person. Okay, I touch on interpersonal and intercultural connections. I believe in life, no one has the ability to say that I am my own making. You know, we are all somehow influenced by someone else's touch, someone else's actions, events. Different things shape who we are, you know, as a person, as a woman. So I like to bring that out in my writing. You know, I like to bring out the connections we have with events and with people, and how important it is for us to always look back towards all these things and to champion ourselves amidst whatever situation, whether it's a bad story or whether it's a hardship or success. But there's always something to do with a connection between the main character itself and the people around it. Yeah, so that's the central theme of what I write. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, this nice, you know, it's very enlightening. Professor Ruzy, would you like to tell us about the literary realities of Malaysian women? Like, what are the views from Malaysian women short story writers writing in English?
Thank you. Jennifer has a point there. You know, she talks about a woman writing about Malaysian women's realities.
Yes, yes.
First, Malaysian literature in English is not an old literary tradition, quite young,
Yeah.
started in 1930s until now. But the writings are rather sporadic. You know, we don't have one writer who has written quite a number of works. We had a few in the first generation, but nowadays you've got writers writing maybe 2 or 3 stories and then stopping, you know, because they are not writing is not their main work. It's
Yes.
it's complement, it's supplementary to their day job, because no one makes a living in Malaysia just by writing, I think. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, what aspects of Malaysian realities? Uh, Previously, they were very, conventional kind of story writing, conventional realities. But nowadays, more and more, you will see that women are talking about things that seem to be taboo before, talking about domestic violence, they're talking about women's bodies, talking about things like uh, interracial relationships that seem to be sensitive before, but within certain contexts, you can talk about them. But what I saw in my research was, women writers talking about my area. I like working on domestic violence. Women writers talking about domestic violence, and these are not women who are not educated. You know, the women writers show women who are professional women. They have jobs as an accountant. If you look at a short story by Charlene Rajendra. She's talking about an educated family, Indian family, but having problems with domestic violence. And this has not been, it was not an issue before, but more and more women writers are now talking about things that have not been enlightened. They have not been in the in been talked about openly. Okay, so um, things like, let me just see, things about psychological problems. Our most recent novelist, Hannah Alkaf, she talks about mental health issues. Now, this is something that no one wants to talk about, talking about, and there are also examples of characters who are people with disabilities. People do
Yeah.
not focus on them before. So, more and more women writers are talking about things that have been hidden, but through these women and brave women writers, they have become not common, but they have normalized these things. These are things that can be
Yeah.
discussed in open. They are not secrets anymore. Yeah. So
And I
but
also
perhaps
guess
I can,
it's
yeah,
sorry,
Jen.
Prof. Ruzy. I mean, like those days when women want to really tell what they're going through, they always had to hide behind the name of a man. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they had to pretend and turn their stories into a male fiction instead of being able to
Yeah.
say. So I guess the world has globalized in such a way that it allows women to voice out what they're going through. So we live in a much open world right now, and we don't have parents who tell us that stop washing your dirty linens in public. You
Mm-hmm,
can't bring out your story this way. So we are
yeah.
more daring to write about our mothers who've gone through really tough periods of life, and to write about our sisters who have struggled in their marriage. So it is
Yeah.
supposed to be a lesson for the others to
Yes.
follow, to
Yeah.
understand, because
Yeah.
life is really very complex.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. There was an anthology about young women writers speaking out against about incests, speaking about
Mm-hmm.
rape. I mean, these are things that must be talked about, because the
Yes,
more you hide
Yes.
about them, the more people do not know that these are problems in our society.
correct.
We may be developed, but we've got these issues that need to be
Addressed.
put out in the open.
Yeah. I think there are more women writers who are coming out highlighting women issues in their
Yes,
writings,
yes,
and it is
Yes.
really getting quite a good recognition from the publishers as well. So I think
yes.
we have to move forward in
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah,
Very
yes,
good. Yes.
yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Very progressive. Progressive initiative. Yes. Um, Anuradha, how do you come out with your short stories? Okay, that focuses on the minute details of life. That is often neglected or not considered important.
Okay, what I actually do is I try to look into life's aspects. For example, when I'm writing short stories, sometimes you see even the bindi that you use, it can be put into your story. The pottu, I mean, we Tamils here, we call it as the pottu. But many do not know the significance of the pottu, you see. So especially when I'm writing my stories, my short stories in the Malay language, in the national language, I try to highlight all these little things like the pottu. Why is it significant? We only see the women wearing it, but we don't know why they are wearing it. Okay, sometimes you see them wearing it black, sometimes you see them wearing it red. But why? Why are they doing it? So how do you send this message to the others, the other races in Malaysia? I mean, you live in a multicultural society. You are supposed to know, okay, the differences that we are going through. But how are we going to do? So I try to include all this in my short stories to give the significance of these little minute things that's happening in especially in the Indian society, focusing on the Tamils, because as I'm a Tamilian, so I write more issues related to the Tamils. I can't be writing about the Malayalis or the Telugus, the Punjabis, because I do not know
Yeah,
in detail about their cultures. So I might go wrong. So I rather focus on this. And then when I'm focusing on the food, okay, like rasam. Everybody knows what is rasam, but they don't know in detail how do you make rasam. You know, the Indian soup, they call it. They call it the Indian soup. So when you incorporate all these in stories, it might be in relevance in the future, something that might have been forgotten. But by reading the stories, you might know, oh, okay, this has been a practice. You know why you are doing it. Okay, so I try to incorporate all these details, and then during marriage, even marriage, when you're having a marriage, you have the wedding ceremony. Before the wedding ceremonies, you have other things that you do. So all this can be incorporated in short stories. So why I do this is because, I mean, when the future generations they are reading this, they will know. Slowly, some the youngsters are seems to be uh, following the Western culture and forgetting all these. So by incorporating all these in stories, it becomes at least they will know we had all this, we had these practices. We should do this. What is
You'll
the
have something to
significance we have
refer
all this?
to.
Yeah, there's something to refer to.
Yes.
So I think it's important. I mean, when we write, we should highlight all these details, small details, so that it will be used as reference by the future generations, especially the youngsters. Okay, it can be
I think
anything. It can
at our age right now, it gives us the best chance to do that. I mean, for the Malay writing, there's so many intricate details that go missing because of
yeah,
modernization.
true.
So, if
Yes,
we have writers who can bring back all this into the modern aspects, and in fact, like even for Chinese literature itself, you have the significance of, let's say, even mooncake for that matter. I mean, children these days are so hooked on to all this,
gadgets and
ES
they forget
yeah,
about
all
all
these
this.
internets and gadgets and stuff. So they don't really care for traditions. But I guess yes, what writing can do is to really keep the traditions alive through time and space. Lah. That's the power of
Yes.
words. Yeah. So we
Even
need
if
to
you look at
invest
the
the
Malay
whole.
culture, so many adat you have.
Yeah.
I think you have missed it along the way. Okay, we are not practicing all that. So one way uh, to
Retain.
detail it is through our writings. To keep it is through the writings. Of
Yeah.
course, when you ask the younger generation to go and refer into non-fiction writing, it will be very detailed and very dry. So how to make it interesting is through short stories, through
Yeah.
through stories. They will get the interest to read and understand more about the cultural values.
yeah.
The,
So
the
Anuradha, you mainly stress on the cultural part, the cultural
yeah, that's the
identity.
only way I think we can preserve all
Yeah, that's
these.
very nice, very
Mhm.
nice, very
cultural
promising.
preservations.
Yeah. Jennifer, you
Yes.
coming from a multiracial country, do you think writers carry the voice of their own race better, or is there a biasness to it in regards to post-colonial or political literature?
Okay, we just heard Anuradha saying that she writes mostly about the Tamil culture because she doesn't want to get it wrong. By the way, Anu, it is Onam today. It's for the
Yeah.
Malayalis. Happy Onam,
Happy Onam.
everyone.
Yes, happy Onam.
Okay. Naturally, most writers would feel safe in their own zone. Lah. Hence, they write within their familiar territories. There's nothing wrong in writing what you are familiar with or can personally resonate to. However, there are good writers who are daringly aspire to, be the voice of someone who isn't defined within their own race or gender or religion. There are many. There are many. Which names I'm not going to mention here, but there are many local writers who have successfully given a voice to a character that is not of their own
Yes, yes,
race,
I've
gender.
also
Like
read stories,
Fernando.
but yeah,
Yeah.
Like
So and
Fernando.
they've managed to really bring out the actual perspective of another race or the hardships or the struggles. So those kind of writers are what I would say courageous. They've done their research, and I think they need to be applauded because they've done quite a good job in trying to bring in the essence of our multicultural country. It's not easy living in a family of 3 or 4 siblings. Even as a single child with your own parents, you have all kinds of misunderstandings that can come in because we all think differently. Imagine a country with so many different minded people who want to achieve different things, people who want to aspire getting somewhere else. There's so much to cater to, right? So what a writer can do um, in terms of bringing everyone together, like I mentioned in my first question, right? Finding a connection. We
Yeah,
are all different, but what connects us is like what Anu mentioned just now: food, music.
yeah,
You know, our happy
yeah,
moments. And in our struggles, we remember what we did together in our happy moments, and we need to
yeah, yeah,
stay close and knitted. So every one of us have our own identity, our own our own uniqueness, but I wouldn't say it's wrong if you want to write about your race, or you should dive into writing about someone else. I think that's a really courageous thing to do. And there are a lot of writers who are known as the colorblind writers. They write as it is, fearless, no filters, only with the hope of wanting to make it a more inclusive world. So I believe knowing who these writers can give us a chance to understand what sort of writing they do and what is their purpose of writing it. And often we tend to find, like, if you find an Indian writer writing greatly about, let's say, a foreign figure, um, it's so easy for us to just turn around and say, hey, you talk so much about this person instead of talking about your own race. Do you know how we struggle? All this kind of stuff do come in our criticism towards the writer. But I think for someone who is able to write from a different perspective is someone you need to encourage. A literature you need to encourage in yourself so that you can be open-minded to what globalization is really all about, in the ability to understand someone, to respect someone, and to move forward. Yeah. So I think
yeah,
kudos to those
yeah.
who can do that. Yeah.
Yes, true indeed.
Yes.
Wonderful. We are running out of time. Okay, Professor Ruzy, I would like to know about if you can say something about influence of Indian writings in the Malaysian literature.
Okay, maybe I can talk about two things. First is Malay literature. The classical Malay literature we've got, they are clearly indebted to Ramayana stories. So, for example, this work called Hikayat Seri Rama, which is
Mhm.
actually from Ramayana, but certain things have been changed. So some of the things were then adapted or enculturated into the Muslim
Yeah.
context. Okay,
Ah.
so for example, Sita is not Sita. Sita becomes a flower, blossom. But you can,
Yeah.
if you were to read the story, you can compare that there are similarities between the original Ramayana and the Malay version of Ramayana. So that's one. We've got rich stories in the classical Malay literature where you can see clearly the instances of Indian influence, especially from Ramayana. Okay,
Okay.
but I also want to quickly, because I know you've already running out of time. Also want to talk about Indian
Right.
diaspora in Malaysia
Yeah.
and the early Malaysian writers, early Malaysian Indian writers writing in English. They were clearly talking, like Anuradha was saying, they were clearly talking about the things that came from their, original motherland. They were talking about specific traditions that their grandmothers were still following in these novels and short stories. But Malaysian Indians nowadays are less tied down to, not Anuradha may have, you in your work you may have touched on certain Indian cultures, but the ones I read in English, they are more concerned with contemporary Malaysian reality. So they are no
Yes.
more talking about things that their great grandmothers were influenced by in those, maybe 50, 60 years ago. So there is a difference between, you cannot really trace deep seated Indian influence in Malaysian literature in English, but you can see it in Malay literature because there's so many hikayat. We call them hikayat, which are actually chronicles. So chronicles of Sri Rama, story of Sri Rama, you find them in Malay in various versions. So some versions were more Islamic than others, but nevertheless they are there to show that these are all influenced from, our interaction many years ago, many centuries ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope I've given you
That's
some, insight. We need
wonderful.
maybe, it'll be like
Thank you.
1001 stories, to, because Ramayana itself is a long book epic.
uh, Professor Ruzy, one more thing. I want to know that Malaysian writings, how much Malaysian writings are translated into English? Is there enough
How much?
translations in English?
Yeah, yeah. Some of our Malay stories or Malay novels have been translated into English, and of course
Okay.
there are the ones written in English, originally written in English, like Jennifer writes in English. But we've got some Malay writers, especially those that have won awards, Sea Right
Huh.
Awards or national awards. We those novels and short stories are translated into English, so they are available. We've got some good writers that have made that where their works have been included in world anthologies, the ones writing in English
Yes.
originally, but not many. We're not as prolific as Indian writers. You've got wonderful Indian writers who've made it big in the international arena. So we've got Malaysian writers too, but we have not quite won any Pulitzer or Booker Prize like you have in India. Not yet.
Okay. It is going to come soon. How does it matter? It will come soon. Okay. Uh, Dr. Sebastian, due to internet issues, could not come to the panel. Who is a renowned poet, and he has contributed to 1,500 poems, to literature as a poet from Malaysia. And he has won many awards for his excellent writing, including Order of Shakespeare Award. His poetry books are on couplehood, friendship, leadership, and love. He is soon going to publish 9 of his books and one on English pronunciation, a teaching aid in the classroom. So I would like to read one of his poems, Be a Blessing. Let the fire of negativity and the lot of passivity be drenched by positivity. Smother all unreality. You are strong, be strong. You are a fighter, stay and fight. Do not give up, be where you belong. You are light, shine on the light. You have beautiful flowers grown. Give those flowers to those who not sown their own. Spread the kindness and the loveliness. Let them see the joy. and a bit of happiness. You were born for a purpose. Love was planted in you for others. You were born with a blessing. So, thank you, Dr. Sebastian. I'm so happy to recite your poem. Uh, is there anything else, Professor Ruzy, you would like to say about before we finish? Manoj has already come. He's the board of thanks.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you
Manoj.
for having me here. Now that I know you and Manoj, and we've got things in common. So, and Jennifer and Anuradha, so we can come together again and maybe discuss your works. As I said, offline. I'm not a creative writer, but I'm a critic. So
Yeah,
Okay.
we can have you
maybe
critique
your
our
work.
work the next round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to have you on our panel. Thank you. Over to Manoj.
Well, heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, Ruzy, Jennifer, and Anuradha ji. It was indeed a great pleasure listening your this insightful discussion. I would also like to extend heartfelt thanks to Bishakha for moderating today's session with such nice questions. Actually, I liked the questions very much. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the audience for supporting us. I see a lot of comments from them, and I have also highlighted them while this conversation was going on. The recording of this session would be uploaded on our official YouTube channel soon. Thanks again to all of you, all the eminent guests, and our audience for your presence and active participation. So, with this, I think we can end the broadcast now. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
And
you.
we
Bye
talking to
bye.
will hopefully
Thank
again
you
meet
so much.
in some other forum of Asian Literary Society. We will discuss more about the not only about the Asian art, Malaysian art culture literature, but as the individual, your writing, your creative abilities, and what is your forte in the field of literature. Okay, thank you so much to all of you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.